Hello again. More inspiring stories from military chaplains. This one is from Chaplain Walter Bean, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Air Force. He writes, "Before I went on active duty 16 years ago, I led a pretty sheltered life. I was a pastor of a small church in northwest Missouri. I had never traveled. I had never been out of the country. In 1995, I was deployed to Cuba. I was there to support the migrant camps of so-called boat people who had fled Cuba for the United States. If they were intercepted at sea by the Coast Guard, they were sent to the U.S. Naval Station at Guantanamo Bay. The military was there to guard the camps and see that people were being adequately cared for while they were being processed. When I was there, 80,000 people lived in the camps. Conditions were terrible. People were doing the best they could, but what I saw was horrible. The camps were crowded and dirty. Entire families were crammed into small canvas tents, and their only furniture was made from cardboard. Porta potties served as toilets, and people bathed at a spigot. It was 110 degrees every day I was there. Each day I went into the camps and talked to people, just trying to lift their spirits. People told me incredible stories of their desperate attempts to make it to the United States. One day I sat down at a picnic table next to a woman with a young boy. She told me her story. Wanting to escape poverty and political oppression, this woman had arranged and paid dearly for passage for herself and her son. Of course, the group had to travel in darkness, and those boats are not what you'd call yachts. They're small and unstable and crammed with as many people as they could. They have no facilities for cooking or toileting. Inevitably, sharks became attracted to the fluids and waste that surrounded these boats. During this woman's harrowing journey, sharks began to circle the boat. The seas were heavy and the waves high, and the boat was in danger of capsizing. In rising fear, everyone in the boat huddled together and prayed for survival while the dawn approached. By chance, the Coast Guard spotted the boat and sent out a cutter, but by the time it pulled up, the boat had sunk. Everyone was in the water, and people were clinging to debris. This woman was holding tightly onto her son, lifting him up out of the water so that he could breathe. Every time she held him up, she would sink below the waves herself. Suddenly she felt a searing pain in her side. Gasping from the pain, she said, "It's a shark, I've been attacked." Certain that her own death was imminent, she was determined that her son would live. As the Coast Guard began to pluck people out of the water, she kept holding her son high over her head, enough though it pushed her below the surface of the water. Waves of searing pain racked her body. Finally, she couldn't hold her breath any longer. Under the waves, she began to slip into blackness. In a moment, she could lose her grip of her child, and both would drown. Just then, a Coast Guardsman snatched her son out of her hands and lifted both mother and child into the boat. After her rescue, the woman found she hadn't been attacked by a shark, but had been bashed repeatedly by heavy debris flung at her in the waves. She had become tangled in a net and would never have been able to free herself. Without the arrival of her rescuers, death would have been certain. As I listened to this young mother's story, I realized just what great lengths people would go to in order to escape tyranny and oppression. They will risk their very lives for the smallest chance at freedom. After telling me her harrowing story, this young woman was eager to talk about life in America. She had so many questions. Will the government let me have 3 gallons of milk instead of 2? Will they let me have 2 pairs of shoes for my son? Will they throw me in jail if I sell a pair to my neighbor? Oh boy. She didn't have the first idea of what it meant to live in a country where you could make your own decisions and enjoy the fruits of her own labor. And yet she had risked everything she had, even her life, to find out. We are so blessed to live in this country. People are desperate to get here. Even if they don't fully understand the freedom and the liberty that we enjoy, it was a great privilege for me to pray with this young woman who dreamed about a new life that she could not even imagine. It has made me appreciate my country in a way I never did before. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you so much. See you next time.